Hello, friends, fiends, and fellow UB-tubers, and welcome to episode 788 of the Daily Comic and Collectible. Today, the collectible of the day is the Hasbro Toys, Marvel Comics, Marvel Legends series, Firestar action figure. Angelica Jones soars into battle, harnessing the power of microwaves to battle evil as Marvel's Firestar. One of Spider-Man's original amazing friends, many know her and love her, and she brings along her dog, Ms. Lion. This Marvel Legends 1/12 scale figure of Firestar features intricate details, deco, and even a fully sculpted mask with dog. This 6-inch scale figure is inspired directly from Marvel Comics and from her appearance in the animated series Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. This Firestar action figure features advanced articulation with posable head, arms, and legs, making this a great addition to your Marvel XMEN collection. Box includes the Firestar action figure, a pair of alternate hands, an alternate head, her dog, Ms. Lion, and 2 Fire Blast special effects. This exclusive figure comes in a collector-friendly full-window display box and was released in 2021 by Hasbro Toys. Now, the comic of the day is Uncanny X-Men, Volume 1, issue number 193, with the cover date of May 1985, with story by Chris Claremont, art by John Romita Jr., and cover by John Romita Jr. This story is titled War Hunt 2. This story opens on Muir Island, where retired X-Man Sean Cassidy is out for his regular jog, where he's been going on since he lost the use of his mutant powers. On this night, however, Thunderbird has come to the island and knocks him out. Thunderbird blames Sean for the death of his brother John, the original Thunderbird. Meanwhile, in the United States, Charles Xavier wakes up to find himself in the private quarters of Callisto, following a beating at the hands of an anti-mutant mob. Xavier has difficulty remembering the events leading up to his attack, and has no recollection of his attackers. He is disturbed by the change of clothing that Callisto has provided for him, but is grateful that her minion, the healer, was able to save his life, even though he was on the brink of death. Xavier is surprised at the sheer size of the alley where the Morlocks call home, and learns that it stretches all over Manhattan, and even reaches as far as his own school. When discussing the leadership of the Morlocks, Callisto explains that while Storm has no powers, she maintains leadership of the Morlocks, and Callisto cannot challenge her until her powers return. Xavier tries to convince Callisto to bring the Morlocks out from hiding. However, the conversation is cut short when Sunder arrives with a dead child of the Morlocks, known as Anna Lee. Furious, Callisto points out that this is why the Morlocks do not live on the surface, and warns that if the humans want a race war, then the Morlocks are willing to give them one. Later, near Cheyenne Mountain, close to the NORAD Missile Command Center, Thunderbird is going over the remaining wreckage where his brother died many months earlier, and vows to make Xavier pay for sending his brother to his death. He's joined by his fellow Hellions, Empath and Roulette. Thunderbird is upset that they've come as he wishes to deal with the X-Men by himself. However, they are not without reinforcements, as Empath has brought along the newest Hellion, Angelica Jones, known as Firestar, whom he has been keeping enthralled with his empathic abilities, much to Roulette's chagrin. Meanwhile, at the X-Mansion, the X-Men and the New Mutants are in a training session. After playing a game of tag, They recreate a simulation of the New Mutants' recent episode on the Dyson Sphere, owned by Lila Cheney. Their training session ends when Professor Xavier returns with Callisto. Seeing Xavier in the tattered clothing of the Morlocks gives the X-Men and the Junior New Mutants a good laugh, especially Cannonball, who was given grief from the Professor for purposely dressing in a similar fashion. While on a cruise ship in the mid-Atlantic, Storm is well on her way back to her native Africa, so she can sort out where to go next in her life, now that she's without her mutant abilities. She is visited by the apparent vision of her mother, and wonders if she really saw it or not, and if she's following her destiny. Meanwhile, back at the Xavier estate, the Professor tries to relax in a bath after his ordeal, and finds that even after being healed by the Morlock's healer, he's still very sore after his beating. He's called down to the war room of the mansion, where the X-Men are receiving a video call from the Thunderbird, who tells them that he has taken Banshee prisoner, and he intends to kill him in 24 hours in revenge. He explains to them that he's hidden Sean somewhere in Cheyenne Mountain, and for the X-Men to try and find them. The X-Men quickly mobilize, and Xavier attempts to establish a psychic connection. He finds that he has difficulty doing it, and gets Rachel to form one for them. When Shadowcat uses her phasing powers to get herself inside the NORAD facility, it allows Nightcrawler the telepathic view needed to teleport in, without hurting himself. Nightcrawler then smuggles Colossus, Rogue, Rachel, and Wolverine into the facility. However, it wears him out. He goes one more time to report back to the Professor. Returning back to his friends, the Professor is left alone to monitor things from the Blackbird's portable Cerebro unit. However, he's discovered by the Hellions. The Professor is caught off guard when Roulette tosses one of her discs into the cockpit, causing electrical damage that causes feedback into Xavier's brain. Then enters Empath, who uses his powers to send Lockheed fleeing in terror. And then he matches his empathic power against Xavier's telepathy. When Empath bites off more than he can chew, Roulette knocks Xavier out with gas. This is immediately detected by Rachel, who tells the others. Shadowcat goes back to the Blackbird and finds the Professor knocked out and the equipment trashed. When Nightcrawler asks Rachel to use her telepathic powers to track Sean down, she cannot bring herself to do it, as it brings back horrifying memories of her time as a hound and collapses into a ball. Instead, Shadowcat uses her phasing powers so that she and Wolverine can search the facility to try and find Sean. Meanwhile, Nightcrawler teleports Rogue out of the facility to look after the Professor while he, Colossus, and Rachel try to move on. Meanwhile, in the war room of NORAD, Empath has used his powers to gain access, and he, Firestar, and Roulette have grown bored with the lack of action. Empath uses his powers to tip security off to the X-Men's presence, and has them send out their SecBots to neutralize all intruders. While Empath brags to Roulette, Firestar takes off to do something herself to make the White Queen proud of her. Fortunately, Wolverine and Shadowcat manage to find Sean, chained to one of the shock absorbers that protect the secret facility. There, Wolverine is attacked by Thunderbird, who is at first no match for Wolverine's superior fighting skills. However, Thunderbird has prepared for this, and the room begins pumping with gas. Shadowcat quickly gets Sean to safety. However, when she goes back to help Wolverine, the gas knocks her out, and she falls through the floor in her solid state, knocking her out. With Wolverine distracted over Kitty's well-being, Thunderbird takes advantage of the situation by landing a powerful punch. Leaving the room before the gas can affect him, Thunderbird is shocked to see Wolverine go back for Shadowcat, when he expected him to abandon his comrade like he believed was done with his brother John. Thunderbird realizes that he cannot leave the two X-Men behind to die in such a dishonorable way, and drags them out of the room to safety. Placing gas masks on their faces, Thunderbird rushes off, hoping to get revenge against Xavier. While elsewhere in the complex, the Secbots find Colossus, Rachel, and Nightcrawler, prompting Nightcrawler to bring Rogue back to join the fight. As Nightcrawler, Colossus, and Rogue fight off the robots, Rachel is still in an emotional breakdown, unable to break out of her fetal position to fight back. As they are all distracted, Firestar smashes through the room, pulling Colossus outside with her. The Secbots capture Nightcrawler and down Rogue. The two mutants are about to be executed when Nightcrawler teleports free and knocks out the commanding officers who have arrived on the scene. With Colossus now high in the air and succumbing to Firestar's microwave powers, Rogue comes to his rescue as the girl struggles with the waning effects of Empath's powers. Rogue knocks the girl out with ease and carries her and Colossus back down to the ground. Meanwhile, Nightcrawler is fighting off those under Empath's thrall, when Thunderbird appears and gives Empath trouble for interfering in his revenge plot. Shadowcat sneaks in and pulls Empath through the floor, and he passes out when Wolverine threatens him with his claws. This causes everyone to snap out of it and attacks Nightcrawler, whom they shoot at with extreme prejudice as he's trying to capture Roulette. He manages to avoid injury by slipping into a heating duct. Meanwhile, Thunderbird continues to make his way out of the facility to get back at Professor X, and manages to avoid getting caught by Shadowcat. Before Kitty and Wolverine can go after him, they are found by guards and another Secbot. While elsewhere, Rogue and Colossus attempt to convince Rachel to fight with them, but she cannot bring herself to use her powers. Rogue, getting sick of Rachel's weakness in the dangerous situation, tells her to touch her bare hands so that she can absorb Rachel's telepathic powers and use them instead. Nightcrawler arrives and convinces Rachel to use her powers to locate Wolverine and Shadowcat so he can teleport to their location. Rogue then leaves with the unconscious Firestar to bring her back to the Professor. Meanwhile, Professor X has revived from being knocked out to find Thunderbird standing over him. The Native American warrior accuses Xavier of being responsible for his brother's death. However, Xavier explains that his brother's death was an accident, and that he was telepathically linked with his brother at the time of his death. Unwilling to believe Xavier, Thunderbird raises his knife to stab Xavier to death, but falters and gives up, finding that he cannot bring himself to kill a man that he's not entirely sure was responsible for his brother's death. With the battle over, the X-Men take the Hellions back to their headquarters, where they learn from the news that the X-Men were being blamed for the attack on NORAD. Rogue surprises Kitty by finding Lockheed and bringing him back, and Thunderbird decides to go back to his teammates in the Massachusetts Academy, duty-bound to stay by his comrade's side. Xavier asks what Angelica wanted to do. Angelica explains that she too must return to the White Queen. Xavier departs and wishes the two mutants the very best. This story is continued in the Uncanny X-Men, Volume 1, Issue number 194. Geek Fact: this issue is a key issue featuring the first appearance of Firestar in the Marvel Comics universe. Before this issue, she had only appeared in the animated television series and a comic book adaptation of one of those episodes. Neither are considered canon or important to or part of the Marvel Universe. This is also the first appearance of James PROUDSTAR in the classic Thunderbird costume. Bonus Geek Fact. This issue is the 100th anniversary double-sized issue and features a dedication at the end of the story to Lynn Wein, Dave Cockrum, Tom Orzechowski, and Glynis Wein. Advertising Ad Fact.
Since you're holding a Marvel comic, we know that you're a discriminating reader. That means that you care about each and every page of this comic book, including the advertisements. We'd like to know more about the types of ads that you like to read. Which are more interesting? Which are more informative? That's why we're asking for your advice. Would you rather see an ad about a new game, or a new computer, or a new movie? Don't worry, we have no intention of running more ads. We just want to run the ones that you tell us you like. Remember, you can help us out by filling out the questionnaire below, or by dropping us a note on your own paper.
And I'm giving you my facts in 3. I'll show you stuff. Just let me be. I'm telling you. Just watch my mouth. Cat fans no game. It's what he's about. Well, they say the sky's the limit. And to me, that's really true. But me friend, you have seen nothing. Just wait till I get through with my geek facts. Geek facts, you know it. With my geek facts, you know it. Come on, geek facts, you know it. Catfan's gonna answer right now with a final fact again. Geek fact.
Firestar's first in-continuity comic book appearance was in Uncanny X-Men, issue number 193, from May of 1985. She next appeared in her own miniseries, which presented her definitive in-continuity origin. The Firestar 4-issue miniseries depicts events both before and after Firestar's appearance in Uncanny X-Men, showing her development from a shy, insecure girl afraid of her developing powers to a confident young woman capable of easily defeating Emma Frost. The miniseries also establishes that Firestar's powers were microwave-based rather than the more common fire generation power that her animated counterpart displayed. The comic book Firestar essentially harnessed ambient microwave radiation from her environment, making her powers far stronger in an environment such as space, where the concentration of microwaves is much greater than within a planetary atmosphere. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining me for another Daily Comic and Collectible, and I hope to see you again Monday. This is Hot Fun Comics Man, and I'll catch you on the flip, Thunder Kitties. Over and out.